Devakshar. Hope you are following us, watching our videos, and also liking them. Do press the like button and share our videos with your friends and family. So today we will do glimpses of Sri Sarada Devi, that is our Holy Mother's personality. Short glimpses, just a few of them we will discuss here. Firstly, we will start with the way she looked. Was she beautiful? Was she not? What do people say? What do her contemporaries say? Let us just check that out right now. We will start. The Holy Mother was about medium height and quite well built for an Indian woman. In her early days, she was not stout at all, but towards middle age, she showed a tendency to be so. But as she grew older, she again became slim, and it was in that period that most of her devotees had occasions to meet her. In her complexion and general appearance, too, there was a marked difference between her early and later years. On being questioned about her appearance in her youth, she described it as being quite pretty. It is said that when she returned to Calcutta from Kamarpukur for the first time after the master's passing away, Swami Premananda's mother was very much struck by her appearance and asked her, "Mother, where from did you get such exquisite beauty and charm?" Surabala, her insane sister in law, used to say that when she saw her first, she would appear radiant as she sat in meditation. But this was in her pre Radhu days, when she used to be in a quite highly exalted spiritual state and spent all her time in meditation and devotional practices. After the coming of Radhu, when, to quote the mother's own words, Maya laid her hands on her, such external expression of her inner beauty ceased altogether. When most of her disciples saw her, she was in a declining state of health owing to age and frequent attacks of malaria. Her general appearance had by then deteriorated to a great extent. Her complexion at that time was somewhat dark, but even then there was in a mellowness and subdued glow in her, lending an exquisite grace to her form. A monk who saw her at the age of 40 describes her as having in her countenance the delicacy and tenderness of a maiden, as speaking only words of sympathy and compassion, as possessing an inexpressible celestial luminosity in her looks, and as conveying to one and all the impression that she was one's own mother. It was, in fact, a subtle grace and quiet dignity, rather than any extraordinary physical beauty or awe inspiring majesty of form, that marked her out from others. But this was evident only on careful scrutiny, and owing to her plain looks and unassuming manners, a superficial observer unacquainted with her could never pick out from the company of other women. Once, while she was in Varanasi, a Marwari woman came to see her. The mother was then seated with Golapma, who had a rather imposing appearance. The woman took Golapma to be the Holy Mother and went towards her to make her prostrations. She thereupon pointed out at the mother, but the mother, out of spirit of mischievous fun, what did she do? Directed her to Golapma as the saintly woman she was seeking. Golapma once more showed the mother to her, but the mother was bent on misdirecting her once again. This went on a few times until Gulab called out to the woman in an excited tone, "Can't you distinguish between a mere human face and the face of a divine being?" These words at once drew the woman's attention to that subtle and elusive charm in the mother's face, to that gentle dignity and incorporeal beauty which we associate with the expression of the gods and goddesses. Indeed, only in comparisons drawn from the conception of divine agency can adequately convey an idea of the sublime expressions in the lines and curves of the face of one whose whole life has been dedicated to the pursuit of holiness and the practice of forbearance, innocence, and loving service. This combination of gentle dignity and grace gave her that maternal pose which no one who went to her failed to notice. It inspired reverence in one's mind without creating the least sense of inaccessibility. One felt the utmost freedom in her company, but one also got the feeling of elevation and an apprehension that one was before a presence that was something more than mere human. Many persons who went to her with a list of questions felt no inclination to ask them when they were actually before her, for they found their doubts dissolved in the sense of peace and exaltation that her presence conveyed. To restore faith and courage in the wavering, to inspire confidence in the weak, to disperse the cloud of despair and depression, were power which her personality always carried with it. So she had all these powers. But all this was not done by any sort of aggressive influence, such as associating with a military personality. It was more through the sense of consolation which the loving touch of a mother conveys to an ailing child. For even the most wicked disciples felt that he was near and dear to her, that she had no eye for his failings, that there was no error too grievous for her forgiveness, and that if she would but open his heart, her overflowing sympathy and assurance of divine protection would heal the wounds of his soul. When she was requested by a direct disciple of the great master not to allow a certain young disciple to come to her presence on account of some misconduct on his part, she remarked, "If my child gets covered with mud or dust, is it not my duty to cleanse him and take him on my lap?" When a woman who had led a bad life went to her in a mood of sincere repentance and made an unreserved confession of her sins, she embraced her with great warmth of feelings, uttering these words of assurance: "Don't despair for whatever you have done. You will get over all your sinful tendencies." She also gave initiation to that woman. So the mother, in her, that is always, what was it that overcame? It was always that mother that was in the forefront. So the mother in her overcome all the accepted standards of moral respectability. There was an educated youth disciple of hers who used to visit her frequently and was also conducting a religious center in his village. The young man got involved with a widowed girl, an offense of double sacrilege according to the prevailing morals of conduct at that time. Several Puritans tried to persuade the mother not to allow the young man into her presence. Though she was visibly moved by this lapse of the young man, she replied to such requests as, How can I? Who am I? I am his mother. How can I forbid him to come? Such words will never pass out of my lips. The young man continued his visits. He also brought the girl one day. Though she reprimanded her for enticing the young man, her behavior towards her was as affectionate as that towards any daughter. That was our mother. Another unique feature of her maternal love was its constitutional disinclination to notice the fault of others. In this respect, she combined in herself the nature of a loving mother and that of an innocent child. The mother in her making her too big hearted to count the errors of her children as of any significance, and the child in her insulating her vision from the perception of evil by her utter innocence. We have already referred to her prayer at Vrindavan to have the fault finding tendency blotted out from her. Her prayer was literally answered, for it is said that even if any action proceeding from the littleness of men happened to meet her eyes as she passed by, her gaze, with its characteristic innocence as of a little girl, would take no notice of it. Golabma was once scolding a maidservant. When the Holy Mother asked her the reason for it, she said, "Mother, what is the good of telling you? You cannot see the defects of others." To this, the mother replied in a mild voice, "Well, Golab, there is no want of people to see the faults of others. The world will not come to a standstill if I am otherwise." The secret of that tremendous patience and forgiveness which she displayed in her dealing with her kinfolks and disciplines was this combination of motherliness and childlike innocence in her character. To pardon the erring was an instinct in her. It was not unoften that novices who were threatened with dire consequences by the head of the centers took refuge at the mother's feet and escaped punishment through her intercessions. Of course, she impressed on them also the need of obedience and discipline in the monastic order. In several cases, her way of forgiveness, fortified by a motherly reprimand, worked much better and more drastically than any other drastic methods. There was this instance of the Brahmachari Nagain Jr. of Belur Mutt, who was afraid that Swami Shivanand, the then manager of the mutt, might expel him from the mutt for some grave mistake. He escaped to Jairam Bati to seek shelter with the mother, who interceded on his behalf and saved him. About this, Swami Shivanand remarked, "How is it, my boy? You went to the High Court directly to complain about us." This incident is only one among several others and is specially cited because of its connection with the great personages. Her attitude of kindly forgiveness extended even to servants guilty of misconduct. Once Swami Vivekananda ordered a servant of Belur Mutt to be dismissed for stealing. The man went to the mother, then staying at Bospala Lane, for shelter. That evening, when Swami Premanand went from the mutt to pay his respects to the mother, she interceded on behalf of the man. "Look here, Baburam, this man is very poor. It was his poverty that forced him to steal. Should Naren on that account drive him out? The world is full of misery. You are monks and realize very little of it." No need to say the man was taken back. So, hope you enjoyed today's episode. We will again come back with such kind of episodes about the mother and her personality. Do stay tuned, share our videos, and do subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for being with us. Namaskar.